Tell me what's on your mind.
Well, so first of all, thank you for your work. I just joined boundaries.me a couple days ago. I've read the boundaries book, and it's really helpful.
Oh, cool.
So I've been training the same people. After 3 years, things have become quite lax. And so a lot of them at this point, I train them 2 or 3 times a week, and it's become a more maintenance thing. So the clients that I've tended to attract are older and more deconditioned rather than young with goal oriented. I want to make results now. So it actually works out because it keeps me financially, my paychecks come in consistently and I don't have to constantly go for new business, which is nice. But the downside is, I don't know if it's a downside, but we get very, very, very close. And then the level of respect stops, going from you're my trainer and I'm the student to, oh, you're my buddy coming over and we don't have to work hard. And as a matter of fact, I'm probably not going to do the exercise you tell me to do. So that's kind of been happening across the board with all of my clients, especially, in their homes, that's their castle.
Melissa, I knew there was a reason I wanted you as my trainer. I knew it. So after I work with you for a while, I don't have to do that stuff. I can just kind of sit on the couch and we'll talk. And wow, that was a great training session.
Yeah, apparently that's the way it goes.
Well, why are you letting them get away with that?
I am fearful of, I guess I'm fearful of losing them as a client, of them getting upset with me, insulting me. If they're new clients, I have no issues whipping them into shape. But the ones that I've started having a relationship with, where now I know their mothers and their kids and their uncles and their aunts, now the relationship has become more friendly. And
so
the most recent, I've been invited.
What we were talking about in the opening segment about now you have an aggressive conflict, right? So to move against them, against their laziness, against their procrastination, to stand up and make a requirement to speak the truth. Now there's a conflict about the relationship. They might not like it. It might hurt them. They might not like me. That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, question?
So my question, the most recent was, is that I was invited for Christmas Day at one of my clients' homes today. I went there for Thanksgiving, kind of as I'm single. So, and they know me that I don't have any other plans. I've separated from, my family. I work with a therapist, and anyway, that's beside the point, but so I don't have any other plans. But they assumed, and that means I'm open for them. And I don't want to go. It's not that I don't like them, but I feel that I don't want to go over there on Christmas. It's too close. And I didn't really say yes. There wasn't really an ask. It was just kind of like, oh, you don't have plans? Well, you come over here at 11. We'll see you then on Christmas Day. I'm cooking this, and I just found myself choking on I don't want to insult you. I just don't want to be there. So I guess that's my question is, how do I really haven't thought about it, but I would rather sit at home and hang out with my new little puppy, make myself some soup. Yeah, I just don't want to be there.
So is that the question, or is it the bigger question about this whole client thing?
I think it's the bigger question of, how do I set boundaries of being able to say, listen, I'm not really part of your family. I know I'm over there all the time, and I do love you guys to a certain extent, but no, I don't want to go for Christmas. No, you can't sit around and drink coffee for the first 45 minutes of our session. No, we can't, how do I do that without losing them?
Well, now you've complicated it.
Okay.
And I want you to think about this, because this is really, really important. And I'm not saying they don't relate. What you're saying doesn't relate to what their response is going to be. They do relate, but what their response is going to be, once it starts to dictate how you need to be for you, that's when we've lost it, because then somebody else is in control of you. Now we want them to be in control of themselves, right? But we lose freedom when they're in control of you. And so I'm gonna just start with this statement. All right. And I want you to think about this. And this will be something that you'll have to think about as you go resolving this problem. And I can tell you it is it's a good thing to think about. It's something that I have to think about as a psychologist when I was in clinical practice, as well as now what I do mostly is what I do consulting and CEO coaching and things like this. And that is this, that a consultant, a trainer like you, or a psychologist, anybody that's hired to help another person, can only be as helpful as you. Let me say it a different way. You can. Oh, how do I make the math work on this? You can only be as helpful as you don't need the person. There's got to be a better way to say that. To the degree that you need somebody, you'll be less helpful because it keeps you feel like, well, if they fire me or if they stop or whatever, if I say this, see, now I need them, right? And that keeps me from serving them well. And so when we're hired to serve someone, we can't need them because it'll keep us from serving them well. And that's just a thing, that's a piece of I guess you could call it integrity, but that sounds a little more moralistic than I mean it, because I don't think you're doing anything lying or anything like that. But I mean, if we're going to be the most helpful to somebody, we have to be okay with them walking away if they don't do or like what we said.
Okay.
So I think you got to start there. All right. Now that'll be a goal that you kind of work into getting that back, because you said in the beginning you feel that and you go in and you say, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and they kind of hop in line. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I would keep that in mind, A, and then B, when I would begin to work it into the kind of moments gradually that this is happening. You said that they want to sit around and have coffee. So I would want to say, okay, I'm here for a session. And Susie, you know what? Because we like talking and stuff like that, I've noticed that we've gotten into a little bit of a pattern, and I haven't served you well here. We've gotten into a pattern where I kind of help you avoid your workouts a little bit because we like to talk. And we sit down, we have coffee, and I'm not really being a good trainer. So today, what we're going to do is no coffee until after we're done. And I think you do it in little small increments like that. You don't have to come in and make some big statement, we're redefining life or anything like that. I just think you start to speak the truth, like I said in the opening. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And she says, you want to sit down and I say, well, you know what? We really need to do our training. We've been letting time go by here. And I would just confront it's too big a word. I would just kind of speak the truth right there in the moments, in the little ways when it's happening. And that way it's more kind of normal. Now, with regard to Christmas, why can't you just say, you know what? Thank you so much for the invitation. I've thought about it. It'd be fun to come, but I really had planned on spending Christmas kind of with myself this year and just having a quiet day. So I think I'm going to do that.
I can probably do that. Yeah.
What's wrong with
helpful.
that? And it's nothing about her. But this is kind of what we were talking about in the beginning of the show, right? You kind of get conflicted inside. How do I say this? Because you start to worry too much about the other person's response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super helpful. I can definitely do that for Christmas. One addition, instead of just sitting for coffee, what I've noticed is once I teach these people, so it's, as I mentioned, it's been a few years, the basics, they have started to be like, oh no, I'm not up for that today. We're just going to take a walk. So sometimes they will do something, but they won't let me dictate what we're doing. Or, oh no, we're not going to do that today. That my shoulder hurts too much. Or rather than, my shoulder hurts, is there something else we can do? It's no, we're going to do this, or that exercise doesn't work for me. And I've noticed that it's the older, maybe and I just kind of let that slide. Is that kind of along the same lines of,
well, what
not
about
being
this?
able to,
I think obviously, and that you're the professional, there's, and my PT tells me this, starts to do some exercise and it hurts too bad or whatever. She goes, and I'll say, oh, that's good. She says, is that too much? And I'll say, yeah, I think that was too much. She said, okay, here's an alternative we can use. Now, if I said, but how about let's go get a cheeseburger? She said, no, that doesn't get
right.
the same result. Right. So here's what I want you to think about. I would have a formula of, you could say to her, oh, if that one's too painful, here's 3 or 4 options that we can do that'll help your shoulder, but walking isn't one of them. Okay, that tends to do other things, and I think we really need to focus on something that's going to help the shoulder. So here's 3 or 4 other, and you give her some options, but again, it's within the boundaries.
Right. It's still my workout that I'm still, okay, we can't do that, but we're not going to walk today. We're going to work on your shoulder because that's why you hired me, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then take it back to the original issue.
Just take it back, unless you determine that, well, walking is better than nothing, and if she wants to pay me for walking with her, I guess I'll go for a walk. But I think this is probably, if you look inside yourself and your history, this is probably a dynamic you've had in non-training relationships as well. A little bit of the fear of, if you push somebody and hold your ground, that there's going to be some relational consequence, and it might be just a good place to grow.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I have to say to people all the time, no, I don't really do that, or no, that I don't think that'd be helpful. No, we're not gonna go down that path, or whatever. And basically, in general, it's the more assertive people that tend to be abandoned or left less. It's the more compliant people that the other person loses respect, and then it diminishes your sense of power in the relationship in a good way, and they just don't feel like ultimately they're getting anything anymore. So I would kind of keep that in mind. Okay. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Thank you. It does. Thank you.
Okay. And call me and tell me how that goes. I want you to try those things, and I'd love to hear about it.